My name is Lisa Allistway, and on this channel, you will find a variety of inspirational and informational videos. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. My guest today is Julie Reisler, who is a Master Transformational Coach, author, podcast host of the You-est You, and the founder of the Life Designer Coaching Academy. Julie holds a master's degree in health and wellness coaching from Maryland University of Integrative Health and is on the faculty at Georgetown University in their coaching program. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so excited to be with you.
I'm excited to be with you today as well. Would you like to add anything to that bio introduction?
Just, I would say that like all of us human beings on a journey of learning, everything that I do and teach is comes from, a lot of the desire to make a real impact. And I also wrote Get a PhD in You, which is all about my journey in getting a PhD in myself. So no, I think you did a great job and I'm just excited to get started.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I was looking on your website about kind of your background. Why did you want to become a transformational coach?
Yeah, it's so funny because it wasn't like I set out on any journey or goal to do this. Honestly, I worked with a coach about 15 years ago. This is before coaching had really blossomed and boomed. And of all the modalities, and I've worked with therapists, I've done a lot of different kinds of personal, professional development, inner work. And I worked with a coach who literally, it was transformative. It changed my life. It changed the direction of my life. It had me, every area of life, career, health, marriage, myself, and it was so powerful. And I had known I wanted to go back to school at some point. I didn't want to necessarily become a therapist, although I think they're great. And I thought, this work is so powerful. It is the miracle business because you're helping people to shift perspective and their lens and behaviors and routines and beliefs. And so I went back. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but I ended up getting a master's degree basically in transformational coaching and fell in love with this work because it really, it brings hope where people feel there isn't hope. It brings a sense of possibility where you may not feel there's possibility. It brings that sense of abundance where you may not feel that. And I've seen it over and over again. I've lived it. I always have a coach and it just became this deep passion and desire. And after getting a degree, I left my day job. I was a single mom at the time. I really believe in this work. So living and breathing it, and I still work with somebody at all times.
So that's interesting because I would say like 15, 20 years ago, there really wasn't life coaches, career coaches, health coaches, transformational coaches. How is this different than like what psychologists or counselors or psychiatrists can offer a client?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there was coaching, but it wasn't as well known or understood or utilized. I think what's happened is we've seen, and the studies show this, that coaching works when you have that support and accountability and someone who is listening very deeply and also hearing things that you're not hearing or saying things you're not realizing you're saying, that plus the accountability and the action. And so it's grown so much because this whole world of coaching works. What I would say the difference is, it's a great question. I share this all the time in my coaching program is, when you go to a therapist or a counselor, which is also great work, different. It's like a cousin. You're usually very focused on the past in dealing with, healing trauma and the past from a standpoint of overcoming it, healing it, digging into it. In coaching, you look at you might go to the past a little bit. You usually need to, but we're looking at it from a different lens. It's from that generative, appreciative, transformative lens. And so you might take past experiences, hurts, things that have happened to you and say, okay, what do you want to do with that? How do you want to shift that? How do you want to use that going to the present and the future? That's one of the differences, how we deal with the past. In coaching, it's much more focused on present and future. That's why I call it life designer. It's the name of my work and program, because as a life designer, you're designing your life. You bring those past experiences and strengths and stories and lessons. The other difference is, with coaching, there are action items, there's accountability. So usually in therapy or counseling, you go, I love therapy. I think it's great. The difference is I don't come away with to-do and action items. In coaching, if you're trained properly, you should come away with some baby step action items that when you continue to do those, that's where you start getting the massive shifts and change and transformation. Having that coaching container is part of that accountability. So it's like transformation is baked into the model and the process of coaching. That is what I was taught. That's what I teach at Georgetown. That's what I teach in my program. Mm-hmm. And it's true. I see it with clients. It is so powerful.
Yes. Yes. I know that sometimes people can get very frustrating with maybe a psychologist or counselor, not ragging on y'all, but sometimes people get stuck and you keep talking about the same issue, going to the same person for many years, and it's analyze, paralyze. And so I like that with coaching, there is some actual direction and some accountability, and it's not just talking about your feelings, not just trying to, stay within that, psychological realm. So that's really good. And I think it's very helpful for some people who might be frustrated with that model.
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting because coaching originates from the positive psychology model, which is a strength-based way of looking at your life, at your goals, at your ambitions, at your dreams, where you're stuck, your stories, beliefs, all of that. The difference, like you're saying, is it's very forward moving. It's forward action. It's about, not just processing, not just looking at things from a new light, not just having someone, part of the gift is if you have a well-trained coach, they know how to really listen to you at a level that most of us are starving for that kind of listening. So a powerful trained coach knows how to listen for what is being said, what is not being said, but it is not about being the expert as a coach. It is not about stepping in and saying, I have the answer. What's empowering is your client. If you're being coached, you learn, oh, I have the answer. It's within me. And then those action items and accountability help you to implement. So it's you get the benefit of all of it. And that is how you make change over time, is having actions, having a place to come back to look at what, did you take action? Maybe you didn't. Well, great. Then let's look at what's getting in the way. Probably the same story that's getting in the way of your life. And it's so powerful versus, again, psychologists, therapists, have its place for sure. Usually that's more processing trauma or healing the past. You can also have a healing of the past in coaching. It happens all the time.
Yes, definitely. So what are some of the things that people come to you for when they, they're needing a transformation? What are some typical clients that you typically work with?
I've worked with men too. I typically work, I would say, like, for every 10 clients, 8 or 9 are women. And I really love entrepreneurial, big thinking. Not necessarily all of my clients are entrepreneurs, but that big thinking, that open kind of mindset, often, open to really looking at themselves, and are often stuck in the area around worthiness, around confidence, and around beliefs with what's possible. So that might show up in leaving a job to starting a business. I have a lot of women that are on the verge of starting a business, or how do I create a more successful practice or business than what's here? How do I step out, be in the limelight, show up, be seen? There's a lot around a lot of beliefs. Oftentimes, the feeling stuck, or it might be in a relationship, might be in the way you look at, body and weight. I've worked with a lot of women around that. That was kind of where I started in that area around well-being and wellness and health and mindfulness. A lot of times it's, I know I have something greater to do here on the planet, and I really need help getting to what that is and then expressing it. Mm-hmm. And I've done it, I've coached, I would say almost in the thousands, hundreds of people. I've worked with companies. I love it, right? Because what we're doing is, I think of it like the acorn, right? Everybody's an acorn. If you get nourished and watered and enough sunshine and vitamin D and all those good things, you have the potential to be an amazing oak tree. However, if not, to me, it's like potentiality that's not expressed. A good coach can see that potential, can help nourish the acorn with the acorn itself. And what you get is actualized potential. So starting businesses, sometimes it's been leaving marriages or rekindling a marriage or leaving a job or asking for a pay raise and starting your own thing. Or, it's not just weight loss, but body image and self-love. A lot of the stuckness is around worthiness, confidence, willingness and comfort, to be seen out there, visibility. So I do a lot in those areas.
So it's so anybody that's like wanting like a life makeover, for example, maybe they're midlife and they just want to shake things up and they no longer fear the consequences of making these decisions at 40 that maybe they did when they were 25. They could come to a transformational coach and get some help and guidance how to ignite that.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And I would say, the way that it appears often is it's like things feel fine, but I really don't just want fine. I feel like I'm, my energy is kind of like the light is kind of on, but not fully on. Like I want to turn my light on. I want to feel like I'm fully alive. I want to feel more calm and peaceful, but also lit the F up about what I'm doing and who I am. If that's you, I got you covered. That is like literally, and sometimes I have a business, but it needs to pivot. I am in this job, but it's something is missing. I just had somebody, great family. She has children. She actually sold her business and felt like, I don't even know what to do next. And it's been so amazing because we're really designing, okay, looking at your values, what's important to you. Let's design this with intention. That's where you start to get into that soul level. Why did you come here? Why are you on this earth? Like, let's look at that. That's so powerful. Very fulfilling.
Awesome. So I noticed another thing that you do is you have a coaching program. So not only do you coach people one-on-one, but you coach other coaches. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I am somebody, when I love something, I love to teach it and I love to share it. I fell in love with this work. Not many people get a master's degree in coaching. I did it because I was like, all I wanted to do was study it and practice it. I really, really was turned on and fell in love with this work. Right afterwards, soon after I started teaching at my university, then I was recruited to Georgetown University. So I've been teaching in their coaching program for the last 6 or 7 years. In addition to coaching individually in groups and with companies and teams. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I woke up and like had this intuitive sort of, I don't know, this awareness, this awakening. Like I literally felt like what I heard my inner wisdom say is, you have got to start one. And I had thought of it, Lisa, but I was traveling a lot before everything shut down. And I didn't really have time to like sit down and plan it. And I knew in that moment, I was like, I've got to start this. I'm certified in other areas as well, both in facilitating groups, in mindfulness. I mean, I have a lot of I'm certifiably certified. I just love certifications. So I thought, I could bring in the work I've done in the healing world, in positive psychology, in groups, certified with Heart Math, which is an amazing program. And it was so, I can't even explain it. It was like one of the more joyful birthings. I've had 2 babies. This was like my 3rd, and put together a 4-month, really, really world-class intensive boutique type program based on what I've been trained in, what I've been teaching, but adding in the positive psychology, appreciative inquiry, and a lot of the healing methods that I know work because I use them.
So yeah, I was looking at it. You have like the syllabus online and it's a 4-month program. Is that correct?
Right now it's a 4-month program. We meet live virtually, considering adding a month to it in 2023. We'll see. People have loved the 4 months. I've had students from all over the world. I've had students that are already coaches that went through other programs and felt like they were kind of wanted to refine their skills or missing some of the competencies. I do teach the core competencies. I call it the sacred coach approach. And then I teach one-on-one, I teach group coaching. And then I do teach at the end, how do you create a business? How do you do this as a career? But the focus is it's all about transformation, and it's all about you become the expert at coaching. You are not the expert of other people's lives. This is not about telling people what to do. It's just not.
Yes. And in my observation, it's been booming, this whole coaching business on online. It's also a very competitive space because, you don't know what you're going to get. You might get somebody that's like poorly trained and have a bad experience versus like some amazing people that can really do the work. So what are your thoughts on the competitive marketplace of coaching? And since it's not really regulated per se?
Right. Like, how is it? So it's funny. I just had my class today. I was teaching, we were talking literally about this question.
Oh
I'm like, well, here's what I truly believe. Like, obviously, as somebody, I've got a master's degree. I am like certified with ICF. I'm certified with the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches. I mean, and to teach at Georgetown, you have to. I think trainings and certifications, and there's a whole variety, and there's a lot of good ones. I really stand behind what I'm teaching. I've been incorporating what I teach at Georgetown and what I got my degree in, and then bringing in all the other teachings I've had. I think having a training, being certified is important. It builds your competency, mastery, experience. It also builds confidence. And frankly, it gives you with my program, there's a practicum. You are coached and you're coaching others, at least 20 hours. Knowing the power of this work, you've got to experience it, both being the coach and the client. I believe you got to have both. And I frankly believe you got to do that work on yourself. I think it's very hard to help others if you haven't done that. So it's an interesting thing because you have a whole ocean out there of coaches, some that are not trained. There probably are some people that are not trained that are, maybe had a psychology background or social work background and might have picked it up and are great. I stand behind some sort of training and certification just because I think having that attention, that time, that I think the integrity of that, the authenticity of that is really important. Are there great coaches who haven't been trained? I'm sure there are. I think when you're, approaching people that might want to work with you, I've worked with a lot of companies, a lot of teams, I've worked in the government. Mm-hmm. It's helpful to have a training behind you. And it doesn't mean it needs to be ICF. That's a whole other conversation. Plenty of good programs that are really solid, that have that steeped similar competency model, that can teach you how to coach. I think it's worthwhile to do something like that. And the other piece is, I think you got to practice. You got to, to me, this is really sacred territory. You are entering somebody's energy field, their life, their history, stories, beliefs, traumas. I mean, do not do this if you're not trained. I mean, you would never go to an acupuncturist who is not trained. Mm-hmm. And I really look at coaching as, your words are like the needles, right? Like your presence, your ability to listen, ask powerful questions. That's like going to the acupuncturist and having them put needles in you. I love acupuncture. If you told me the person is not trained, there's no way in heck I would go. Mm-hmm. It's very similar. And I get that it's not, I think it's not needles, but you're literally entering somebody's world, and you got to be really, to me, take that really seriously.
Yes. And also have good boundaries, because I believe there's a term called compassion fatigue that coaches, counselors, therapists, they all encounter working with people. They get burned out and exhausted, because you can pick up, especially if you're very empathetic, pick up people's energy, and it can drain you. It may not be for you unless you have like some really good skilled boundaries between you and the client.
Oh gosh, 100%. Yeah, that is one of the first things I teach is managing your energy. You've got, and I'm a big believer, I do this myself, mindfulness practices, managing your energy, having good boundaries, 100%. You're going to be working with people. And a lot of times, if you're an empath, if you're highly sensitive, if you're empathic, mm-hmm. It can be, and it's something we talk about, like, how do I not take on what's happening with them? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that is what we're going to talk about. We're going to learn. You have to learn how to do that. Otherwise, it can be exhausting and it can affect your health. It really can.
Yes, definitely. So let's talk about how to make some lasting transformational change in people's lives. What would be some requirements up front for that equation?
So I look to the science a lot with both the science and of course the behavior, and then what I've seen work both for myself and with others. So first of all, understanding what's really fantastic, and I'm sure you know this and others listening, about the whole idea of our brain is able to, there used to be the belief that you couldn't make changes after 50. Thankfully, that is not true.
Gosh.
I know. I'm like, what? So we have, we all have access to neuroplasticity, which really means the neurons that are, trillions are firing. What happens is you have a belief, you have a story, you have a, a memory situation. And if you've played it over in your mind and you keep repeating it over and over again, it becomes like, like a stream that is kind of a grooved stream of neurons, and it becomes wired that way. To rewire, you've got to refire those neurons. And that means one of the best ways to create that fertile ground, to have your brain be in that space of really being able to absorb this, is having a mindfulness practice. So I don't make clients, I don't ever make anybody do anything, but I strongly recommend you have something, whether it's meditation, whether it's walking in nature, whether it's breathing, really getting your stress response down, your nervous system to be aligned. What's also called heart-brain coherence in the heart math world. There's so much research and data, and it is so fascinating how, when we get coherence between our brain and our heart, when we start to learn to calm down, our senses, our nervous system, we're more present and we're more able to make changes. So you're going to be a little bit of an uphill situation without having that. So any kind of presence practice, and that could be walking outside for 15 minutes by yourself, and taking off your earpods and just quiet, or it could be meditation. It could be just sitting and breathing. It could be intuitive journaling, just putting on music and journaling, what I call that intuitive journaling, where you ask a big question and you just respond. So one, you've got to prime the soil, so to speak, where you're planting these new seeds. The second step would be, you've got to be really get aware. You got to observe and mind your mind. What is it like? So let's say, you want to change the way you feel about yourself. You don't want to feel so crappy to yourself. You want to have a better relationship with yourself. You want to like your body and your whole being, right? So that's a little bit more kind of esoteric, but a lot of women I work with don't feel they have self-love. And just looking in the mirror, while it's great to say, I love you, if you don't feel that may not be the best place to start. And I would not do all these things at once if I were coaching somebody. Mm-hmm. It might be changing your behavior around time, around spending more time with your family, putting the phone away, getting better sleep. I mean, it could be so many things. It might be eating better. Mm-hmm. It might be around giving yourself time off and having more fun, and first creating that space, that fertile ground. Mindfulness does that. Then you got to be aware, what is it you want to change? If it's the way you talk to yourself, I always have you got to start with literally, I take a day and start writing down what you're saying to yourself. You might be appalled, but you cannot change that without seeing it. And then you got to look at, okay, what are we gonna say instead? How are we going to reframe that?
So you have to be pretty highly motivated when they come to you. Otherwise, it's not going to work if you're not willing to do the work. So if you're like, I don't know, it may not be time for transformation. It may not be time for your coaching.
Exactly. It's actually one of the things I was just teaching, we talked about it again, is the theory of the stages of change. So if this is actually a great, I think it's Prochanska's model, right? If you are in the pre-contemplation, or you're not even thinking you want to do this, but if you're maybe, I can tell you, I am not the right coach for you. Yeah. I tend to really love people that are this has got to change. I don't know what I'm gonna have to do, but I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I have one life. I want to make this worthwhile. I'm sick of the fine. I want extraordinary. When you're in that place, which is really readiness for change, I'm definitely your gal, or could be. There are some people that are better with that kind of, just getting started. But I think, you got to be at that place. I think, for me, a lot of the best changes and transformation happened because I was in a place of this stinks, and it was a dark night of the soul. So often those are those moments, if you hang on, that change is right around the corner. I've seen this hundreds of times, but you got to be willing to show up. And frankly, that's life, right? You got to be willing to not be a victim to your life, to be the co-creator, to design it. And I see people, I see many, many clients that achieve incredible things. And I mean, selling companies for millions, creating best-selling books, leaving a marriage that's abusive, whatever it is, and having that that impetus, that energy, that courage, because they realize it's like that quote, it's just too painful to stay where I am, and I want what's on the other side.
Yeah, you get me chills when you talked about having that dark night of the soul. And if you hang on, if anybody's in those low, dark places, it's so true. If you hang on and come out on the other side, there is something more beautiful. But sometimes people are locked or they're blocked and they can't get past it. But I hope whoever might be hearing that really remembers that.
Lisa, like for me, these are things I've all been through myself, like a couple different dark nights of the soul. And I'm very open about this. For me, my way, and I know I'm not alone, the way to handle that is to block it. I didn't want to feel it. And so I personally turned to food and sugar, which, is an upper. It should be, I think sugar should be in the drug category, not for everybody. For me, it was, for some it's alcohol, gambling, whatever it might be, social media, drama, gossip.
Anything that you can get out of yourself and escape yourself and distract yourself. I mean, it could even be, people are, spending hours and hours on social media. That's another form. I mean, it comes in different ways.
Absolutely. Exactly. Social media could be anything that takes you out of feeling and present. And I've done a lot of work on that. I joined a whole 12-step group 20 years ago around that. I was like, this is not working. And yeah, those dark nights of the soul, I got to be honest, like not easy. I love helping people through that. I feel like for me, my prayer was, let this not be in vain so I can help others. And I've gone through enough of them where I know the miracle, the transformation is on the other side. It is through it though. It is, you have to go through, and having somebody that's not going to just focus on the past and the trauma, but like, what are you going to do about that? How are you going to take what's happening and change? That's where you start getting like stuff come up, creativity, innovation, ideas, businesses that are just next level.
Yeah. Winston Churchill said, when you're in hell, keep going.
Which is not fun, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and which brings another good point about the inner work that has to be done. And I know if somebody is already very anxious, the thought of meditating or mindfulness sets them into a panic attack, or, there's people that can have negative effects with those, and you have to be real careful, and it might not work for them at this stage in their life. And it's not a one-size-fits-all formula a lot of times. So can you talk on that, and also the inner work that's needed?
Yeah, I was one of those people 10 years ago when I was in my master's degree program. We did a whole study on mindfulness and meditation. And I was very lucky. I had a professor who brought in some of the great teachers. And we had to meditate. It was part of our course assignment. I had to write about it, and I hated it. And it was funny. She said to me, Julie, you're, out of everybody here, I think you are craving this more than you realize, more than anyone I've seen here. She wasn't trying to make me feel bad or compare me, but she was like, there is a way. And I really believe this. Everybody has a way, even if it's not guided meditation, even if it's just starting with sitting and listening to music that calms you down. I think in our society, it's, fast-paced, digital, screens, stress, it's really, it affected my health. I had a health issue that came about from part of this stress as well. And I can tell you that getting quiet, mindfulness practices have changed and really helped me in my health. We've seen it in blood tests and clinical work, and it's amazing. So, I would just say, find what works for you. For some people, It's a mantra. Some people it's guided meditation. For some, it's just getting in nature. It doesn't have to be, I also would say if the word meditation freaks you out, don't use it. You're breathing right now. Just breathe in for 4 and out for 4. Just do that for 2 minutes. That literally could be what you do. In for 4, out for 4, in for 3, out for 3. If you struggle with getting dizzy, just bring it to 3 or 4 seconds. You practice that over time, you will change your stress response. You will change your adrenaline output. You will change your cortisol output, which can really wreak havoc on your health. So I would say just find some way, or find time to just be still, be quiet and read, whatever that might be. But finding quiet is important. And, that kind of building, it's got to be a daily thing, but it could be 1 minute. If you don't have 1 minute, we got a problem.
Yes.
1 minute is something a day. So that has changed my life. I was one of those people started with 30 seconds. And now today, what I typically do is 15 to 20 minutes. That's for me. That is really, I now feel and see the difference. It's 10 years later though. And it has helped on every level. I have a ton of meditations. Actually, I've recorded on Insight Timer. It's a free app. I've got like 30 or 40 of them. There's tons of teachers there. If you're like, where do I go? Or Google it. There's tons of resources, but it's powerful and there's science behind it, which I think is important.
Is there a hypnosis effect with some of the meditations?
Hypnosis typically is its own style. So I would say it changes your brain. Yeah, like there's a training for how to lead hypnosis. A lot of these meditations, no, you're not going to get in hypnosis, but what will happen is the brain waves shift from the overactive brain waves to the quieter bottom of the ocean brain waves. You do that over and over again. What happens is it changes the HPA axis, which is basically your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenals. That is super important because if you are emitting too much adrenaline, that's where you start getting to some of the problems, like not just adrenal fatigue, but like I had a thyroid condition, it can lead to other stuff as well. So you typically don't get into hypnosis unless you are listening to, a hypnosis track. It can feel hypnotic in that you are in a, you might feel numb or trance. Yeah, you're in a, little bit of a I feel detached. So healthy though. It's healthy to be experiencing that.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to switch gears to the concept of intuition, which is, I think, really probably important in your line of work. How do you help people get in touch with their intuition? I know people talk like women's intuition, but sometimes women ignore it, they suppress it, so can you touch on intuition?
Yeah, I really feel like intuition is our superpower, and it is our direct line to, if you call it your higher self, greater guidance, infinite intelligence, the divine matrix, whatever those wording. I will tell you, and I think women tend to have highly in-tuned intuition, but what happens, this is what happened to me. I would get, and the question is, people are like, how do I know? Have you ever had a gut feeling? Have you ever had a sense of something and you didn't know why? Have you ever just, something said, take a right instead of a left, and you found out later there was a huge accident? Any of that knowing without knowing really, or not having the logical information, but you knew anyhow, or you sense something, we all have it. That's your intuition. Yeah. Some of us feel it, sense it, see it, hear it. I used to just block it. I didn't, what happens is we might hear it or sense it or feel it. It's not always what you want to hear or feel or sense. And I know for me, some of my decisions, my first marriage, other decisions I've made, I remember the one person I hired and got into a contract with, and my whole body and intuition was like, no, not a good fit. And I did end up hiring her. It wasn't the end of the world, but it was not I ended up having a contract that was not in my favor. And had I listened, that happened once, and I'm like, I will never do that again. So I think of it as our truth-telling compass. It is in each of us. Some of us feel it in our belly. Some of us feel it in that heart, chest area. Some of us get a vision or audible, you hear it, or you get goosebumps, right?
Or the creeps. I get a creepy feeling.
yeah, like pay the F attention. If you feel like, creepy, follow that. I have story upon story. I won't go into it, but I'm telling you like some crazy, crazy crap when I've traveled the world and had that and was like right on. You also might have that feeling of why I really, really love that person. And I don't know why. I just really want to spend more time with them.
Yes.
So I teach this in coaching, and this is part of in coaching others, is to help others develop their intuition. Part of it is observing your body, our bodies don't lie. We know this at the what's it called? The psychology that deals with criminals, that deals with lying, right? You can see, well, extend that beyond just criminals, like our bodies, they don't lie. So, if you really feel into something or you love this idea, notice your body. Are you leaning in or are you kind of like, nah, I don't think so? Are you leaning away? Your body will tell you often before you might even notice it. So that's a lot of what I teach. And I teach how to spot that in somebody else, because it can be helpful when you start to decipher and know how to decode your own inner wisdom. It's really powerful.
Yeah, because it helps you reconnect to your true and authentic self. And I know that's something else that you work with your clients is, sometimes people are walking around, acting for this role, for this person, and you've have a mask on and it's not really you. And so can you touch on how you help people get back to honoring their true self and authentic self?
Yeah, well, I think intuition is really, really interwoven in this. And so I don't think anyone's walking around. I think we're all doing the best we can. I really do believe that. However, I did a lot of time, I call the wearing a mask, not the mask that we might wear today, but that mask of like, I'm going to be this person, that to me is like super duper, that's people pleaser mode. That's, stepping into a role. For some, it's acting, right? Because you don't feel like you're being underneath it, I believe, is the lack of worthiness and a lack of feeling good enough who you are. Because if you did, and under that is fear. So my feeling, my belief, this whole idea of being your You-est You is really aligning with your authenticity, with what's true for you. And it's totally cool if it is not the same as someone else's. It probably won't be. And if it's not what others like, we look at that, we change that, we learn how to be with that. I've lived this. I mean, I was like classic people pleaser. People pleasing is actually in a way of lying. You're not truly being who you are. It's not that you're intentionally trying to do that, but when you align, and your intuition will tell you, are you creeped out by that person? So why did you marry him? Are you not a good idea, but it's okay. But let's unpack that. Did you take that job when you felt like something was off? Did you, get into that relationship or that partnership when you felt like, not sure? And so learning how to decipher that, there's a whole way to do that, building that relationship. It's really, in the end, Lisa, it's building the relationship with you and yourself. To me, the most important thing you can do is to get really, really tight with yourself, because you're going to be with yourself the rest of your life. No one else is going to know you the way you do. So that work, that coaching, investment, whatever you're doing, to know yourself, to have that awareness, to know your intuition, to know what's authentic, your You-est You, is priceless.
And just self-acceptance. Once you have totally accepted yourself, you can't be marketed to, you can't be scammed, you can't be all these other things that maybe before you'd be duped by. But since you have a strong sense of self and you've accepted yourself, you don't need those outside forces.
I love that. I would also add, it's really interesting, the more that I really get into this place of of doing that work with myself and others, the more empathy I have for people that are not, and that might be like the peacock that's like, look at my feathers, look how great I am. Like the ego, ego's gone wild. The more empathy I have, because when I see that, it's like, oh, you don't realize who you are is good enough right now, that you don't need to do that. You don't need to try to put on a show. Like, you don't need to oversell me. You don't it's all good. It's good if we don't connect. It's good if we do. Like, you just clearly there's something. And I just think all right, just bless that person. To me, it's coming from fear. You're either in that place of fear or faith, fear or love. That's it.
Yep, most definitely. So let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about a big word that I hear in this world of transformation is manifesting and manifesting your dreams and all this type of stuff. And when I first heard that term, it makes me ask, what's the difference between manifesting and just setting a goal?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, we're all manifesting things all the time. That's what we do. Everything here, all the tangible things, your life, your business, your career, your friends, all of that is, I mean, that's a fancy word for just saying you've created that. You've been a cooperative component to, as a human being, you know, experiencing even the goals and the things that would not be a goal, right? Like all of this manifesting, I think one way to look at it is to, it's kind of like meditation, like I think it can feel very like mystical and, you know, what are the steps? It's like, well, first you got to get clear. What is it you want to experience? What is it you want to have, be, or do, right? That's this human being. We're always
So
going to be
like a creative process before like even a goal is like set or acknowledged.
Yeah, like similar with a goal, I would say to you, tell me about this goal. Why this goal? Why is it important to you? Where is it coming from? What is that going to make available? And what I would do is look at the feeling place, because we're feeling emotion based before thinking. This is actually like completely scientifically backed. I interviewed Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, who writes about this, talks about this in Whole Brain Living. We are emotions first. So you want to get to how do you want to feel? Why that goal? So how do you want to feel in accomplishing that goal? Get really clear. And why is that important to you? Why is it important to you, for your family, for your community, for the world? You want to get really clear, and you want to get aligned with the how is that going to make you feel? So similar to a goal, you got to get clear. You got to set your intention. I think it helps to get the energy aligned and in that excited, high desire state, because we are energy.
That's so good. You know why? I had set a goal to hike the Grand Canyon earlier this year, rim to rim. And I had manifested it when I was much younger, because I'm from Arizona and I have some roots there. And my dad used to work in the Grand Canyon. So I think the manifestation seed was there as to why I chose that goal. But then I had to have the actionable plans to make it happen. But not every actionable plan was I holding a good attitude. For example, like I had to go do these long walks or on the weekends, and I didn't always feel like it, and I didn't always want to do it, and I maybe was cranky while I was walking the 10th mile. So I think that's what you're referring to as far as like trying to get that energy in alignment. That's part of that manifestation.
Yes. The thing I would say that probably takes manifestation like in a little bit of like a different road. It's very similar as a goal, because you get clear, you take steps, right? We have free will. So we get to decide, am I going to take the walk to get ready to hike the Grand Canyon, or am I not? If you keep walking, you're going to get into a space of readiness and ability to do that. With manifestation, there is this kind of understanding. And I would say with goals too, I mean, I typically take a little bit more of a spiritual slant. I just do. I think not religious, but just this idea that, I mean, you can bring in religion, that's fine, but more this idea that we scientifically are energy, the energy of creation. You can measure this 528 hertz is typically the energy of love and joy. I think of creating something as being in a joyful or a love state, right? So I want to be in some sort of state that's around that desire, that joy, that love. So gratitude is a great bridge. Gratitude is the bridge. If you're in like a little bit of despair or funkiness or wonkiness or jealousy or comparison or all that crap, which I've definitely been in all those, gratitude is going to help change your energy state. So you start looking for what do you really feel appreciative of and grateful. So I would just say, think of, and the other bridge is curiosity. Curiosity, because it doesn't have judgment. And that's why coaching, I call it miracle work. What do you do in coaching? You're curious. You're getting curious about everything. You're not judging it. You're curious. Using that gratitude, that curiosity helps to change your state. So you're matching what you're looking to create. Now, with manifestation, you don't always have to know exactly how this is going to happen. You probably said, okay, I'm going to hike rim to rim. I'm going to practice. I don't know that you had it all figured out. Maybe you did. Probably not. Right. So you're doing your part, right? And then what I've seen is oftentimes the universe, all of a sudden there's like, I'm working with a friend on a potential documentary. I've always wanted to do this. All of a sudden she's like, oh, Julie, this is like this documentary specialist you need to talk to. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know that. Someone else I just met was like, oh, I would be interested in funding that possibly. I'm like, really? I just got in motion, got excited, got into that joy, high vibrational state. Gratitude can help, curiosity can help, and then taking action.
Right?
Focus,
because what you focus on grows. So
absolutely.
I was obsessed with hiking the Grand Canyon for 2 months. I called my mom. It's all I ever talked about, because I was focused on it. It was at the forefront. So it was a goal that was going to get met, but it took focus.
Yeah, absolutely. You could call it focus. You could call it attention. You could call it intention. You've got to be, that's right. And it means sometimes blocking other things out. It means telling a different story. This is where a coach can be really helpful in accomplishing a goal. The story could have been like, I've never done this. I'm like, I hurt my ankle last year. I don't know if I can do it, versus like, I have accomplished, like, I know I have in me what it takes, and I'm going to just keep doing the next right thing. And I'm going to do my walk every 2 days. And so making sure you are telling yourself a story that is going to support you. And I mean, this is why I always have a coach, because we're human. It's really, it's ongoing.
It's a muscle. I mean, you have to exercise this muscle too, to make these choices. So let's talk about limiting beliefs, because I think that can be a real roadblock and a barrier for people when they're on their road to transformation. How do we overcome those?
Well, limiting beliefs, the reason why they're so sticky and can be challenging is we believe them. We believe these limiting beliefs. So, there's a great book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap. And he talks about, this idea of like, you can't always see the glass ceiling, but you think, so for example, I was a single mom at the time, day job. I loved coaching, but I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't have an entrepreneurial background. I didn't have somebody funding me. I did not have a ready to go, secure account that would give me the cushion I needed. I really didn't. And I remember feeling, like there was a limited belief, like, I don't know what I'm doing. How am I going to do this? And for me, what helped, I did work with a coach, but also getting that my purpose, that desire to help others was so strong that it helped to overcome and supersede that belief. So sometimes going to your why, going to that purpose. So you might have a limiting belief. I've worked with many women that wanted to release body weight, right? And just feel better, but they've done so many past diets and programs and didn't have success. So the limiting belief is it's never going to work for me. Right. So one of the things you first got to do is look at, okay, it's never going to work for me yet. Add up until now, add the words yet, like add those words, because that's the truth. You actually have no idea. You have no idea. And part of it is, what is your why? Why? How do you want to feel? Going back to that energy, how do you want to feel in releasing weight that doesn't serve you? It does not. How do you want to feel in your body? Right. So you got to get that there. And oftentimes having somebody work with you to see, is that really, the great question is this really true?
Yes.
And ask that again and again and journal that. Is this really true? What evidence do I have? What evidence do I have of that? Keep going to, is this true? Is this true? Is this true?
What story are you telling yourself?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we're all telling ourselves stories. I mean, you're going to be, as a human being, that's what we do. We literally are story making machines. We do that. Yeah. So if you know that, that's when I'm like, well, if you don't like the story, you got to first see it. You got to realize it's a story. It feels true. Why is that movie in my life right now? Why is that story here? How can I change it?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on, or do you know much about the science of magical thinking?
The science of magical thinking. I probably have read a ton of books. You'll have to tell me. I'm not, I have a sense of what this is.
Just that it, like it sounds, how we have to like be creative and think up things, and sometimes thinking up those things they happen, so.
Okay, I got you. I wasn't sure the angle. Well, Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, I think gets into that a little bit. And the other book, I love books. I cannot help myself. Greg Braden's book, Divine Matrix, goes into the quantum physics. Okay, the literal, we live in a world where energy, and we're all made of energy. Everything is made of energy, and there is literally a field of intelligence that surrounds us, kind of like a huge grid. And so to me, the science behind that, it's actually like, it makes, I get like, there are thought forms, there's thoughts that I'm having, that you're having, there are thoughts forms that probably, and that what he shows in quantum physics exists in this field. So as you tune into your intuition, to your inner guidance, and how do you know it's your inner guidance? It's a kind of a question I get asked a lot. It's not going to feel fearful. You might feel fearful after sensing it, but it usually is very calm, very quiet, very, it has sort of there's not a lot of words. It's not verbose. It's usually like a very calm, collected command. Do this, try this, go for that. So you got to start to listen and know that calm aspect is often how our intuition speaks to us. So, pulling in from the field, that's what we're wired to do. I might go deeper into this. We have heart intelligence. We actually get information from the field in our heart first before our brain and our body. And Heart Math, if anyone's interested, go to Heart Math Institute. There's a 90-minute free film. It is wild. And it's true. We have a magnetic field around our heart that is like 10 times the field that's around our brain. This is why you can feel somebody who feels creepy or who doesn't. Horses have huge magnetic fields around their heart and around their body. And that is partially why they're used in therapy, in equine therapy. So we have so much within us that is constantly connecting to the greater field, to the greater universe, the matrix. And to me, magical thinking, it's like, tune into the energy, tune into your energy, be managing your energy. I think of it as just like brushing your teeth. You want to manage your energy. You want to connect in. That's why mindfulness makes a difference of any kind. But I think that science has to do with quantum physics and has to do with, we live in a universe there's a field of intelligence and we can connect to that.
Yes, most definitely. That's great. So the last couple of years have been unusual with COVID, and it's been a real opportunity for a lot of people, because a lot of transformations happened because people had a time to actually sit back and to evaluate their lives. Maybe they didn't want, this marriage wasn't working. Maybe this friendship wasn't working. Maybe this job's not working. And so I feel like we've had somewhat of a forced transformation, good or bad, in the last couple of years, depending on your perspective and experience. What are your thoughts moving forward? Do you see more of this building, these transformations on a collective level?
Yeah. So sorry, it popped out for a second, but what do I see? Like what's happening?
On a collective level, do you see more transformations happening?
Yeah, I tend to be not the eternal always optimist, but I think one of the gifts of what has happened, especially with the pandemic and just shifting gears, we all had to shift gears in different ways. What I think is often when you have a shift like that, it can ignite creativity. It can ignite a deeper sense of, purpose, hopefully unity. I mean, my prayer is that we start to see how we're more similar than just alike. We start to be more creative and innovative in what we're doing and what we're offering for the betterment of others and the planet. And I do think as a collective, it's a choice, right? And I tend to think those that are in the entrepreneurial space or up to big things or big thinkers or willing to do the work on themselves are the people that are going to be shifting consciousness and shifting the collective, because you're open-minded, you're not a victim, you're taking responsibility. You're realizing oh yeah, I'm in charge of my stories and my energy and who I'm being. And so let me look and see, what do I need to do to be,
and not only that, I noticed in my own personal shifts, when a shift happened in my life, it's I don't want to say a part of myself died. That's not the right word. I'm not sure what the word is, but that's what it felt like, because I'm like, that's not who I am or how I am. And so the shift happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and if you can hang in there, right? And it's been, you know, it's a choice. Am I going to go with fear? Am I going to go with faith and love? And then I always think it's those two choices. And like you said, you know, there's oftentimes to pivot. There's times of really looking at what's important and why. I think that question of why is this important for
Why
me?
do anything?
Why do anything? And then ask that question for me, for those I'm serving, those around me, and the world. When you get that answer, that will help guide you to keep doing this or not. And I think it's about, you know, it's deciding I'm going to be awake in my life. I'm going to be awake. I'm going to decide that I'm going to take ownership for myself and not judging, but just up the awareness, up the more you do that inner work of awareness and transformation, the more chance you have, frankly, of enjoying your life and having more peace.
I mean, isn't that the ultimate goal?
And freedom. I mean, the ticket to freedom is actually doing that inner deep dive.
Yes, yes. Well, we're getting here to the end. Do you have any like final thoughts that you would like to share on making lasting transformational change in your life?
Yeah, I love this conversation. Thank you for having me, Lisa. I think just to understand, we are wired, we are meant, we are designed to really be able to actualize our potentiality, to be your You-est You, to change beliefs and stories, to have ourselves be wowed by what is happening, to feel peace and joy and calm and freedom and abundance. Like, I really look to nature as the teacher. And if you look at trees, for example, they're standing tall next to each other. They're not comparing themselves. There's no like, oh, that tree is taller. Oh, no, there's enough for everybody. I think we live in a highly abundant universe and world, and getting that, so too, as human beings, we're part of that. And to trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust in the goodness of humanity, and be one of those people, you know, as you do this transformative work, you become a change agent. It's like the candle, you know, as you become lit up, you then, as you go into the world, you're lighting other candles by who you're being. And that, to me, that's the change I believe we need, are more candles, more light, more luminosity, more lightness.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Julie, for sharing your light with us today. I do appreciate you coming on my channel and getting to meet with you and speak with you. I think this topic is very helpful, and I hope somebody has a seed planted, and if they're ready for their transformation, maybe they'll reach out to one of your coaches.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I love talking to you, and I really hope this was impactful. You know, and I always say to people, take what you like, leave the rest. So if I said anything and you're like, no, I don't think so, cool, just like put it in the trash.
Yes.
Fine.
Me too.
Yeah, it's all good. Well, thank you. And I love what you're doing.
Yes. And if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. If you would, maybe Julie will jump on there and provide some feedback as well. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted to when the next video drops. Thanks for watching.